So just this last week online, you've probably seen a ton of talk suggesting that maybe following the release of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, that Nintendo may not have a lot planned for the rest of 2023, and these rumors and reports originally initiated before it was reported upon that Nintendo would not be a part of E3, amongst other companies like Microsoft and Sony choosing not to participate either. And then we got a couple different sources very prominent in the gaming news industry reporting that yes, according to what they've heard, the reason was not related to E3's organization or show schedule itself, but rather the fact that Nintendo doesn't feel like they have a strong enough lineup of games or quote-unquote heavy hitters to feature and justify a show floor space and a lot of promotion dollars to be a part of E3. And in today's video, I want to deep dive and discuss some of the nuances around this conversation due to words like heavy hitters being used here, and ultimately discuss where as Nintendo fans should be setting our expectations in terms of new games and new hardware throughout the rest of 2023 and into 2024 right now. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today we are discussing all of the talk online around Nintendo and the potential for them to have a quote-unquote light 2023 release schedule when it comes to new Nintendo Switch games. And I don't think you can classify the year as light when we have such a massive title like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom dropping. But at the time of filming, of course, there has been no first of the year Nintendo Direct that has taken place, and there is definitely large gaps that we don't know what to expect in terms of new Switch games. And we also know the Nintendo Switch is completing its 6th full year on the market and will start its 7th year of sales this year in 2023, and that is already a very long life cycle for a Nintendo console. And you could stand to reason that maybe Nintendo behind the scenes does need to shift and start to think about launching the next generation hardware with a large library of first-party AAA games, and that may in turn lead to a lighter back half of 2023 if we are to believe that maybe we should be talking about new console hardware in something like early to mid 2024. Now, as I mentioned, the reason that this has really blown up in the news and been debated and talked about by many different channels online, whether that be websites or fellow content creators, had to do originally with some reports that didn't get near as much traction at the time from Andy Robinson over at VGC, where he stated that he heard that Tears of the Kingdom is most likely putting a bow on the Switch library of games in terms of quote-unquote heavy hitters, and would be the last major release on the platform. And then we got the news that Nintendo would not be a part of E3 in any way, shape, or form this year. And while that is just behind the scenes reports, that is not confirmed by any means. You do actually have multiple sources corroborating those reports, leading us to believe that we should maybe not expect a traditional E3 time summer direct like we typically see Nintendo do year in and year out. Last year was an exception when, of course, E3 was canceled entirely and Nintendo didn't do a traditional mainline direct, rather a mini partner showcase and a couple smaller game focused directs instead. And that's legitimately all the information we got from them over the summertime, and it does appear that this year could be similar if they're not aligned with E3. Doesn't mean that they can't have their own mainline summer direct, but it also may mean that they potentially don't have as much in the pipeline as we maybe had hoped for the rest of this year, as many gamers, including myself, have thought that 2023 could very well be the best year for the Switch ever, especially if we got something like a more powerful hardware revision. At least that's where I landed on the topic. I definitely wanted to see it launch alongside of Tears of the Kingdom. It is now looking less likely that that is the case, and more likely that we should expect a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom OLED themed console to release. And then we really have to start to have that conversation about where Nintendo navigates the rest of Switch's life cycle from here, and to get on the same page with exactly what's being claimed here with the latest updates on this story and an extra source backing up Andy Robinson's original thought that Nintendo has a lighter half of 2023. Let's quickly read through this My Nintendo News article together, where it says IGN also says Nintendo has no heavy hitters after Zelda Tears of the Kingdom releases on Switch this year. IGN has published an article regarding the Entertainment Software Association's report yesterday about E3 2023. The statement from the ESA, which neither confirmed or denied the report from IGN that Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony would not be present present at the rebooted E3 in 2023. Also included some information about Nintendo's software release schedule for 2023. In the article, IGN says it has heard similar information to VGC from its sources that Nintendo has a light second half release schedule for Switch after the long-awaited The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom releases in May. This is leading to speculation online that the Kyoto-based company is possibly planning to release the successor to the still popular Switch console sometime in early 2024. IGN's exact quote reads as followed, where it says, IGN understands that Nintendo and Xbox were initially interested in having a presence at the event, but both had to pull out for reasons unrelated to the show itself. VGC has since reported that Nintendo opted to not take part in the event due to a light second half release schedule, not justifying the event space, information that IGN can corroborate. Now here's the first thing I really want to focus in with this whole talk online about Nintendo having a light 2023. The term heavy hitters is very subjective, and you could just look at that simply from a sales only perspective, meaning that there's probably not a 3D Mario coming this year. Something that's comparable to what Zelda Tears of the Kingdom will accomplish in sales is not in the pipeline for the rest of 2023. It does not mean that Nintendo's going to go an entire calendar year without updating their Switch library of games. We've never seen that happen, and we will most likely be able to expect things like some Pokemon remasters to hit this year that I think you could argue will be heavy hitters in terms of sales. More than likely, we will get Scarlet and Violet DLC. In addition to that, not a new game, but an expansion on some of the fastest selling games of all time period ever, and I still think that it is entirely possible that something like a Donkey Kong game wouldn't be viewed as a heavy hitter, quote unquote, in the mainstream media. And so again, all of that said, it doesn't mean we shouldn't expect a ton of major releases, but I can see games like Metroid Prime 4 that we don't know the status of really probably not being featured or talked about maybe at all. Maybe we get something like the first trailer at the September Direct, and that is clearly a 2024 game, and maybe even a Switch 2 or Switch successor launch type of title. Hopefully it's cross-generational, but that's definitely not guaranteed because we haven't seen or heard any kind of updates recently for the game. And Nintendo may pull a classic strategy, which I would be a fan of, which is relying on far more ports and remasters to keep us fans happy towards the end of the Switch's life cycle so they can shift focus and start development on their brand new AAA mainline games to launch on the Switch's successor. And then I think that a lot of the rumor mill speculation talk around games like Metroid Prime Remaster, maybe the entire trilogy split up 6 to 9 months apart in release from each other, and we ultimately get those all as standalone copies. Games like F-Zero GX, which of course is a fantastic GameCube game today that is stuck on a 20-plus-year-old console that I think many fans would enjoy hopping back into on the Switch, and Nintendo can test the waters to see if there's still an audience today for F-Zero, especially with features like online play. I don't think it does massive numbers, but I think it may justify bringing back some dormant franchises. There's rumors of a new Star Fox game, or even just ports and remasters within the Star Fox franchise. Maybe Kid Icarus Uprising is another port we could see revealed this year, and that certainly, if we get even a quarter of those games that just talked about that are ports and remasters strictly, is not a bad year in my book, and it certainly doesn't feel like a light year for the Nintendo Switch. But again, in Nintendo's eyes, if they don't have the next Mario game ready to be unveiled and talked about, they may not feel like E3 show floor space with how much that stuff costs is really justified, and they may opt to skip their traditional summer direct once again and really make the February or first of the year direct and September directs the two staple events to kind of give us big game announcements. And then we have to start shifting our focus to what does the launch lineup look like for a Switch successor coming out in something like 2024, and are the big Marios and Donkey Kongs and various other franchises actually held back to launch on that platform to try to propel it to new heights and even surpass the success of the Nintendo Switch, which is definitely a rarity. Nintendo normally does one successful console and then a total flop to follow it up, but hopefully they can break the trend this time. I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions on what you think we will see Nintendo actually stick to in terms of new game releases in 2023. Do you think these reports are telling that maybe Nintendo doesn't have a stacked back half of the year? And are you personally expecting some kind of summertime direct / E3 direct from them? Or do you think that maybe this is some miscommunication and misunderstanding in the industry, and Nintendo will go on this year to have one of their best gaming years in terms of releases as ever. And bonus question, when do you think new Nintendo Switch hardware is in the pipeline? Are you in team early 2024? Do you think it's actually sooner than that and it's in 2023? Or do you think we ride the Switch through all the way into 2025? And which games do you personally think Nintendo will choose to launch new console hardware with off the heels of something as successful as the Switch that we have today? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.